In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization. Technology, social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.
Here we are. It's a more serious event than that we predicted before the start of the show, because you like it to always be a little bit light at the beginning and dancing around. But this latest unfolding of the war in the Middle East with a direct attack for the first time, from Iran to Israel, an attack between two nations that have always been in conflict, but never in a direct conflict. They always have used their proxy mercenaries like Hamas in the case of Iran. Also the Houthis were used lately by Iran, but there was never a direct attack between the state of Iran, this Islamo-communist state of Iran, which started at the end of the 1970s with the Ayatollah Khomeini, and Israel. So this is really unprecedented. Christy, what do you think about this latest unfolding of something that could make this Third World War grow even bigger? Because we have always said here on the Leo Zagami show that there is a Third World War is already happening, but the fact that Iran launches a drone attack against Israel directly is unprecedented. So definitely we decided to take away the title we had prepared for you earlier. We will still discuss the subject, though, which of course is about the fomenting of a race war here in the United States, which is an actual reality. But of course, we need to also take precedence with the war that is unfolding in the Middle East. So here we are, Leo Zagami and Christy Zagami. This is the Leo Zagami Show. So Christy, we have to thank our sponsors first of all, no?
Yeah, we want to thank for sponsoring our show, Daniel Estes, Bruce Kodish, and Malgara Zardaminta. Thank you very much. And for all the people that bought the book, thank you very much.
Of course, my books, all of my books. And remember, guys, that in less than a month, there will be volume 10, which is dedicated to what is happening right now. Because
I need to read your book. I need to know why this is happening.
Yes, and Christy will be working soon on the editing of it. The title is Islamic Freemasonry and the Secret Societies Behind the Eternal Conflict in the Middle East. For those people who want to finally learn about the Illuminati in the Middle East, Freemasonry in the Middle East, all these secret societies that have been behind Islam for over 1,000 years, the secret alliance between the Middle Eastern Illuminati and the Western Illuminati. So this is really a delicate subject. I can tell you that this is probably the most dangerous and most difficult book that I ever wrote. So get ready for it. In the meantime, we are still promoting Volume 9, which is still a book which needs to be in every home in America because of the relevant facts that are discussed in it. I just want to remember to the people that... Remind them. Sorry. Fortunately, I have Christy here with me, so it's
the walking dictionary.
Walking dictionary. That Volume 4 is really the book in which I talk a lot about the Democrats, how the Democrats are the real creators of that racism. Let's never forget that the Democrats are the people behind the KKK. It was the Republicans that actually was a party born to fight slavery, that with Abraham Lincoln got to the Emancipation Act.
Yeah, you learned that
I learned that also as a new American, because I have been American for now 1 month. 1 month and 1 day. And it's a very important moment for me. Of course, it's sad to see that we are in an America that is very different from what it used to be. But that's why I want to also discuss today this fomenting of this race war, this demented movie Civil War, which is actually parading and showing the Republicans and the Trumpians and people who support basically a former president as some thugs, because that, you know, they envision that there is Trump winning, but then this civil war is based on their reaction, really, and what could happen in America. But like I said, it seems to me that they are really pushing this propaganda because they are using this propaganda to prepare all their demented voters, whomever still will vote for Joe Biden in this next elections, which will be, by the way, the first elections in which Leo Zagami votes as an American, and the most important elections in the history of the United States.
That's why you have to vote. That's why.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
Why you're American.
I used to be the president of Italians for Trump. Now, as an American, I will be supporting Trump and his comeback as 47. He was.
From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
That's right.
you know, people claim that Joe Biden is somebody a bit more peaceful than Trump. The world is more in a safe place with Joe Biden. The guy is bringing us on the verge of total annihilation and destruction.
And first he had to ruin America.
And first he has to, but not only America, the world. So World War III, Israel under attack. This is the subject of today, followed by a lot of news. We have thanked our sponsors. We want to also remind all of you how to support our show. I see there is a lot of people that are following us today on Twitter. We have been censored, of course, once again on YouTube. Two of our YouTube channels have been blocked.
Right, on YouTube too? I thought it was just on Facebook.
No, also 2 channels on YouTube now this week. My Italian main channels, Lesule and TelePandemia, have been blocked for 1 week.
TelePandemia too?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, this is really demonstrating that we are still scaring a few people.
Dickheads.
Well, we will be present also in the next few hours on Band.video, and of course, we want to thank also the people who follow us on Band.video, which are always numerous. And at this point, let's also show you how you can support the show with GoFundMe. Here we are. It's on the screen. And we have also Cash App. You can find the handle at leozagami.com with all my latest articles. I've been a little bit taking it easy on the articles because I've been focusing on this new book. And guys, it's a very important book because, like I said, it's the first book that I mean, I haven't heard of other books that talk about Islamic Freemasonry, Illuminati, and secret societies. There is maybe a book here and there, but you will never find in one book everything relevant to now, but also everything that really brings you from the very origins of this religion, which is enormous, is very influential. It's very important to know what is behind Islam, understanding the secret societies involved in the development of this religion, which developed in a very different way from Christianity. And it's really incredible to see that after what happened on 9/11, the New York City Council opened its works with an Islamic prayer. Yes, why we see this escalation in the Middle East, while we see that Islam is attacking Israel, which we should be supporting. The New York City Council began its meeting today with this prayer. Allah, number 1.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد
What are you gonna do next? You're gonna put the Islamic flag on the White House, just like they put the Pakistan flag over Westminster during Ramadan. It's important to understand really what's going on, guys. And the faults don't reside only on one side here, unfortunately. They reside on both sides. The elites of the West for 1,000 years have had secret deals with Islam, and we need to understand really what is happening. Because this war is becoming a reality which soon might see our own soldiers fighting again in the Middle East. What is really happening now in the last few hours means that, of course, the US could be brought into the conflict. We saw the phrase that yesterday Joe Biden said, which really was more like it was almost like saying, okay, Iran, you can now proceed and attack Israel, because the way he said sooner rather than later, and then he said don't. But don't without really being firm and assertive, no?
Yeah.
This was what Joe Biden said.
Do you think an attack on Israel is from Iran, Mr. President?
I want to get this information, but my expectations sooner than later.
Mr. President, to Iran in this moment?
Don't.
Are American personnel and assets at risk, Mr. President? Mr. President, are American troops at risk as well?
We are devoted to the defense of Israel. We will support Israel. We will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed. Thank you very much.
What would trigger a direct U.S. response, sir?
So what's happening here? This attack actually has reunited the US and Iran, the US and Israel, that for the last few weeks were actually, and few months since the crisis that started with the 7th of October attacks. This attack from Iran actually paradoxically comes in a moment of crisis, but actually reunites then the two parts. Regarding Netanyahu, those who hope he steps down, they have to realize that the enemies of Netanyahu are the Sabbatean Frankists and the labor Zionists in Israel. Unfortunately, Israel is a country that was, we have made many specials regarding exploring the Illuminati and the history of Israel, so I will always recommend you to, I will send you to listen and view those shows, because you will learn a lot about it. But just synthetically, Theodor Herzl, of course, created the Zionist organization, the World Zionist Congress, but it was soon taken over by the Sabbatean Frankists that followed the socialist communist ideas that unfortunately are the ones of Karl Marx, the ones of people that like Moses S. Moses S. Was himself a member of the Alliance, of this Universal Alliance, Israel Universal Alliance, Alliance Universelle, Israel, this alliance, no, because it's in French, so one gets a bit confused. But what happened was this: the Zionists eventually took over the show, but the Zionists were then infiltrated by those who fomented the birth of labor Zionists. By 1905, there were already two labor Zionist parties. So the more nationalistic labor Zionist organization that there was before kind of faded out towards this more socialist organization. The Universal Israelite Alliance, which was called in French Alliance Israélite Universelle, so now I spelled it correctly, was instead the first organization that was created that saw as its president a guy called another Adolf, and just as bad as Adolf Hitler. But this guy was a Sabbatean called Adolf Crémieux, who was a Freemason sovereign grand commander of the Scottish Rite and also involved in the Mizraim Rite. And it was because of him that we saw the unfolding of what will later be described as the Protocols of Zion that we discussed here on the show. But of course, let's focus on the present attack. Is it realistic that Israel will retaliate? Of course it is. Yeah, of course it is, because Israel at the moment can't show any weakness. So it's kind of improbable that Israel now will take these hundreds of drones silently without.
والعباس من ايران عندك خويا عندك ايران خياس شكله صاير شيء شكله صاير شيء ذاك واحد ما يرابع لا هذا الرابع.
These are the first things, drones arriving in Israel from Iran. Let's also remember, those who are following us, that of course it takes also quite a lot of time for these drones to arrive from Iran into Israel, because they're not so close. So there is the possibility of bringing them down, and that's why there is probably also the help of American air fighters present on the Navy vessels that are parked out there in reach and ready to assist Israel after this attack.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know if of those missiles, those drones, do you know, did they hit yet? Are they still on the way?
No,
so they don't know. Like
no. Some of them that we have just shown, they were already there. That was Israel. They was already under attack.
And then they land and then they blow up, right?
Well, but there is a lot of them that are arriving. Apparently, there is Iran has 500 drones available. Iran. Let's not forget one thing about Iran. They are the ones who make the drones that are used by Russia in Ukraine. They actually have the biggest industry of drones. So Iran has an almost unlimited capacity of drones to unleash on Israel right now. There is, of course, the possibility of reacting with the cruise missiles. The whole thing, of course, might degenerate, and soon we will find ourselves with a war that might involve many countries, not only Iran, but all the neighboring countries with Israel that might feel destabilized. And so that is really the worry of everybody at the moment. So if we have to discuss the geopolitics of this event, is unprecedented simply because Iran has never attacked directly Israel. It has always been a coward. Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism, and at the same time is always cowardly, fomenting war against Israel through proxy parties.
Why are they so brave right now?
Because this operation, which they have just launched a few hours ago, for those who have tuned in, is called True Promise. So the promise is true, and the missiles are real. that is. So US says it has downed some Iranian launch drones that were en route to Israel. But of course, airspace is closing throughout the Middle East. Flights are being diverted, and there is, like I said, the possibility of a general escalation. That's why it's very important to understand here all these factions that are fighting each other, because we have to understand that these factions that might seem indigenous, in reality, they're always manipulated from outside. At the moment, the Sunni faction has always traditionally been manipulated by the British, American, Anglo-Saxon, let's say, network. The NATO network has created for years an alliance with the so-called Muslim Brotherhood, and from the Muslim Brotherhood derive all those Salafi jihadists like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and so on. That is always been something that has been controlled behind the scenes by England and America. while instead Russia and China in particular, has been very much involved lately in the Middle East. Russia traditionally is close to Iran. Problem here is, as you know, Iran was created because there was at the end of the 70s a complete change for a country that was traditionally in the hands of a monarchy, the Shah, and suddenly the Islamic Republic was founded, and this Islamic Republic was founded by Ayatollah Khomeini and a bunch of people that seem to be the usual, you know, classic clerics and all that. But behind the scenes, there was also a lot of ambiguous things that were happening back then. There was a very weak Carter, who still, unfortunately, is one of the worst presidents. Well, not as bad, not anymore, because now we have Joe Biden. But if we have to understand Iran, we have to understand Persia, we have to understand the rise of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we have to understand the fact that from the end of the 60s in Iran, there was secret societies within the Muslim world and assassins ready to change the course of the history of Iran that eventually will push out of Iran the Shah who had decided to implement a very harsh regime with secret police and all that, but it didn't really work out. It was supported by the CIA, and so then of course, from that moment onwards, the image that we have is, generally speaking, that Iran is not a friend of the West. But then things seems a bit ambiguous when you have, for example, Barack Hussein Obama, the founder and head of ISIS, also the former president of the United States, who himself gave some billions to Iran in a moment of difficulty, sent an airplane full of money to just foment more wars and more terrorism. I mean, these are very ambiguous.
Did they want death to America when they got all that money?
Well, they always shout death to America. I mean, that is part of a classic
Is that taxpayer
mode.
money?
Probably. Now, the term Iran means the land of the aliens. And it's actually very interesting because you have to understand that there is also, if we have to go back in time, the involvement of the Germans, the involvement of the Nazis that instigated this great hate in the Middle East. Al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, who became an ally of Adolf Hitler, who inspired partly the Holocaust, who was somebody who basically went to a school of the Alliance Israélite Universelle that was supposed to be an organization that was making schools for Jewish kids. I don't understand. I never understood why this guy went to a Jewish school and turned out to be a Jewish hater, number one in history. We are, of course, in a moment in which the Western world, I don't think, understand really all these implications, because if we have to understand the history of what is going on now, we have to go back 1,300 years, and that is a little bit far-fetched, and it takes a lot of explanation. That's why I am writing a book, so you can understand from the moment Mohammed was born what happened in the Middle East and prior to that, and so at that point you will have a better idea of how.
This book.
Yeah, because then you have this division between the Sunni and the Shiites, which is very important. But now it seems like Islam is coming more and more together. The boundaries set by these various forms of Islam. You know, the main factions, of course, are the Sunni and the Shiites, but then the Shiites themselves are divided in many factions, and then you have the Druze, and then you have from that comes originally from the Shia world. You have the Druze, you have the Ismaili. The Ismaili have themselves two factions. I mean, guys, we are talking about a lot of factions, and I think the philosophy that better describes all this is dividi et impera, divide and conquer, because you divide them and then you conquer them and you rule them. And I remember Licio Gelli, the worship master of the P2, and you know, I was involved with the P2 at one point, and the Monte Carlo Lodge used to say, we can check out how we can control the Middle East simply by controlling the opposing faction. This is a trick.
You said that. I remember we were having the conversation, and you told me he said that. This was like 10 years ago.
Yes. And in fact, I wrote that, I cited that in Volume 3 of my Confessions, and it's something that
10 years ago.
yeah, because and 10 years ago, I also said another thing. I said Netanyahu is somebody who they don't like so much, so they will try anything to oust him out. They want to place the labor Zionist mode in Israel, which is that libtard modality that you will find also here now represented by Joe Biden and his allies. Now, there is a problem, though, placing a bunch of libtards in the middle of enemy. Basically, it's a bit weird. Imagine a bunch of libtards and you put in the Middle East. I mean, nowadays we have this distance now between us and the Middle East, and so that's why you have here parading in the streets drag queens with the flags of Hamas or Freedom for Palestine or whatever. People don't understand certain things. And because they are far away, they're detached from it, so they don't realize them as they will realize them if they were closer to them.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if you have a drag queen and you place him, you kind of just pick him up, you parachute him in the middle of the Middle East in Gaza, he will last 10 minutes and he will be basically stoned to death. And I'm not saying stoned because he will be smoking ash, which is always present in some parts of the Middle East, but he will be stoned in the sense that they will throw stones at him and kill him for real. So that is the reality. And that is also something that makes me understand the paradox of the philosophy that is pushed through these universities here in America, full of libtards that are championing the cause of the Palestinians without understanding that there needs to be some equilibrium. I mean, I'm not saying that everything that Israel done is right. You have to understand Israel itself was created by people who were desperate to survive. We said it in our special talking about Israel. If Theodor Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, was not reacting to the Dreyfus affair, which was this hate anti-Semite episode that happened in France against a French Jewish officer that was accused of murder, and if there wasn't injustice surrounding that case, and if there wasn't also the anti-Semitism that came out of the Damascus affair, people say, when did these things happen? Well, the Damascus affair happened in the middle of the 19th century, but that is probably one of the turning points in our history, because the Damascus affair gave birth to those pogroms that hate the killing of many Jews, and all this was favored, of course, by a guy who was this renegade governor of the Ottoman Empire, who then proclaimed himself a king of Egypt, and whose dynasty ruled until the 1950s. So the history of the Middle East, guys, is a very complex one, and so whoever opens his mouth and starts saying, "Oh, but this and that," they don't have a clue. We have to understand that at the moment there is, of course, an attack by Iran. Iran, though, is a place where one of the most popular books in circulation is still to this day the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a complete forgery in the sense that, like we said in our show, you have to reinterpret it as the protocols of the Sabbatean Elders of Zion, and then you will have a more clear idea. But the fact that this hate is constantly addressed towards the Jews, it's very difficult. Like I said, going back to Theodor Herzl, he wasn't really plotting to conquer the world. He was plotting to get, they were simply organizing the survival of his race that was being decimated and persecuted all over Europe and the Middle East at that time. So the reaction was to then propose a sovereign state, which was Israel. Eventually, then the Zionists took a dark turning point when they instead embraced the more leftist, socialist, communist ideals that gave birth to labor Zionists. And nowadays, the people who are actually in charge of most of Israel are the labor Zionists. And so Netanyahu, it's somebody who is fighting with this internal force. But at the same time, guys, let's not forget, how did eventually, why did Great Britain give the possibility to Israel to come together with the Balfour Declaration? Because from the very beginning of the 19th century, there was this British Israel mythology. Britain saw themselves as the lost tribe of Israel. I think one of the books which I have actually here, and it was by my friend Bruce, this great book.
Oh,
this
that one?
Typical example.
Look at that book.
You know, this
it's taped up.
No, this actually is an original copy that was given to, I think, Korzybski, and there is actually a dedication. But this is a book from 1899, in fact. And this book is a typical example of Anglo-Israel mythology, creating the myth basically that Britain was the lost tribe, and at that point the descendants of Jews, and that they had as a mission to bring back the Jews to Palestine. They became from all that came together, then the realization that they had to, and then of course Great Britain was in charge of Palestine once the Ottoman Empire went down. But who brought down the Ottoman Empire? It was behind the scenes a Freemasonry piloted by the usual people in London. So guys, there is of course a lot of responsibility here from the usual suspects that now like to parade themselves as being all right and just. So Iran is a country that with Ayatollah Khomeini went and united those extremes of communist ideology that was very popular in the end of the 60s in every university in the world, because unfortunately that's what happened. But then it was merged with elements of Islam, and then at that point we have the birth of this figure. Like I said in the past, he was brought to France. He was kept there for a few months. He gave hundreds of interviews. Ayatollah Khomeini. He was everywhere and anywhere.
I know.
He was just constant. They made, and you can't say that this guy wasn't a friend of the West when he was living in France. You can't say that this guy was.
He was all over the news.
And it was constantly, and so he became the founding father of this modern Iran, which unfortunately is not so modern. It's really entrenched in the worst Sharia laws possible. The Sharia is, of course, the laws that are taken from the Quran, the Hadiths, the teachings of the prophets that are also outside of the Quran, and within the group of people that were part of the Khomeini milieu, there was the people who for the first time started to say we need to bring back that holy warrior that kills himself for God, a little bit like at the time of the assassins, the Nizari assassins of Hassan Sabah. And that's how they re-fomented something that wasn't really present any longer in the DNA of the Muslims. And who was behind this whole plan, though? Because, guys,
America.
There is always some connections with America. There is always some connections with. Now,
it's not fair.
There is, of course, the possibility here of also saying if America doesn't do it, then Russia comes in and they do it too. I mean, and they take maybe the space that America. So America sometimes has done compromises simply to not let the Russians come in and pick up their place. And that is a big thing, because at one point Russia gave billions of dollars to Iran and
everything's corrupt.
Created a more strong alliance. And let's not forget, for example, that the only port in the Mediterranean that the Russians have is in Syria. Syria is also allied with Iran, and so they're all part of this alliance. And we can say that in general, these are all proxy wars of the main war, which is between America, Russia, and China at this point. So
that's what you always say.
So yeah, and the thing is, now we have Iran, of course, attacking, and everybody will be, of course, very scared. At one point, there was a cyber attack has hit Israel website just when Iranians were sending their drones. All the main websites in Israel were attacked, and they were basically announcing, prepare for the retaliatory attack. So they were attacked not only from the skies, but they were attacked on their own computers.
So they sent them a message?
Yes, they sent them a message. This is a very interesting point because, I mean, it's kind of like we are about to it was done in a very scenic way. Now, if nothing happens, then we can just, if Israel doesn't react, then at that point, because Iran says that this drone attack on Israel is legitimate defense.
And it's the conclusion of this thing that they're doing. It's the conclusion.
Yeah, they announce the matter is concluded. So for them, the matter is concluded.
But then they say if they don't retaliate, then they're going to look weak. So they have to retaliate. They have to do something. They can't do nothing because it shows that they're weak.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the fact that there was this cyber attack with a clear message, prepare for war, it means that they want to have a confrontation, a direct confrontation. It means that they are not just playing and sending you through drones. The fact, though, that they said that they might just complete the operation like this, it's a bit, how you say, it doesn't make sense, because on one side you're saying this is the beginning, on the other one you said the mission is completed and now that's it.
Well, it's all chaos, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then you have Iraq, and Iraq used to be a country up until not so long ago. We sacrificed a lot of soldiers for Iraq, no? Yeah. A lot of soldiers for Iraq. Nowadays, Iraq has become basically a vassal state of Iran. The problem here that a lot of people don't understand is that regardless of the political divisions that might have been in the past with Saddam Hussein, the Ba'ath Party, and then of course the fall of Saddam Hussein destabilizing the whole region and all that, is that there is an alliance that is religious. The holy of holy grounds, one of the most holy cities for the Shia religion is in Iraq, and vice versa in Iran there is other holy places, and all is connected to Ali, who was the cousin of the Prophet, who married his daughter. And at the death of Muhammad, the tension erupted, and because the Sunnis will respect what was decided by Abu Bakr, who was the caliph, while instead, after Abu Bakr died, there were another 3 caliphs. There was in total 4 caliphs until Ali arrived as the caliph. However, things didn't really work out because there was a confrontation known as the Battle of the Camel. The Battle of the Camel. And it's very serious because these people have been fighting since then. I mean, so the Middle East is the ideal ground for the secret societies and for the Illuminati to operate their schemes. Remember, guys, that the very origins of Freemasonry, of the Illuminati, are to be found in Syria, Iraq, and Iran, and Egypt, of course. So that's it. That's where it all comes from. That is the nature of the secret society, comes from there. So the Russia is, of course, has their own problems, and every now and then in the last few days they said, "Oh, calm down, chill out, guys." But it seems a bit of a rhetoric way of, because in the meantime they went and met with Lavrov, met with his counterpart in China, met with Xi Jinping, and the alliance of the Sino-Russian world order, which I've described very much in Volume 7 of my Confessions, which is an essential reading.
Can I see that book?
Yes. For those.
Oh, I matched the book.
Yeah, I must say you matched the book.
Kind of.
Volume 7. So I wanted to understand why Russia has not intervened maybe more. But the thing is, probably Russia doesn't have an intention of intervening, because how can they intervene when they are actually buying drones from Iran, use them in Ukraine?
Yeah.
I mean, what can they say? Sorry, don't stop. You can't do this to Israel. They would tell the fuck up. We give you your drones, just whatever. They're doing business. They're all. So it's a little bit. Now, regarding Ukraine, this is very important, guys, because in the last few days there has been a lot going on with Ukraine. We know that there is a problem in Ukraine, and we have always said the problem is they don't have enough men. No, I always said this. And now, in fact, a few hours ago, there was this article by the New York Times that confirms what I always said in the last few months. And it's like a complete confirmation of what I said. Can Ukraine find new soldiers without decimating a whole generation? I mean, they are finishing up the soldiers. But then there is the hypocrisy of war. You remember we said that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, wanted to send these soldiers, these 2,000 soldiers in Ukraine, and this and
what
that.
What happened with that?
Well, guys, Macron, and this is incredible news. In the first months of 2024, has bought $600 million of gas from Moscow.
Oh my God! You know what?
Yeah.
I heard from somebody that worked for the Pentagon, who was probably a CIA agent, that you should not ever trust France.
Nevertheless, France, I mean, guys, this guy wants to wage war against Russia, and then he gives the money so Russia can do the war. I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He first threatens Russia and then buys 600 millions of gas from Moscow. I mean, this guy is such a fake.
Oh my God.
Macron is a fraud. It's a complete
There
and
used to be
utter fraud.
Oh my God. Our
that-
French friends went back to France too.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
that's true. Now,
What a time to go back. Terrible.
we are in a crazy situation here in America. Let me tell you, an Afghan illegal immigrant on terror watch list was captured coming through the border illegally. He was actually released by the border agents.
Is this a new one?
No, I mean, it's the one, I remember we saw it a couple of days ago, and I
Okay.
said, how is this possible? How we are supposed to fight terrorism
Well,
if
that's what
somebody
every
who
American
is
says. That's what every American is saying. We
but
all feel the same.
But this is a part of a plan, you know. It's kind of a catch and release plan. You catch him, you tell him what to do, and then you follow him, and you make sure that if he does what he does what you want him to do. So it becomes just like those terrorists who did the 9/11, who were mercenaries in some ways. I mean, people say, "Oh, of course, it was an inside job." Yes, with people working who were jihadists, though. I mean, there was a secret alliance going on, guys, between the Bush family and the Bin Laden family. Let's not forget that. Otherwise, here we are discussing things that are, no? So
Man, whatever. This sucks.
it sucks. It sucks. In the meantime, also Middle Eastern crisis that is developing on more France. There was actually a container ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Just at the beginning, when the Iranians were sending their first drones, they also sieged and took control of a ship. There is here images of them taking control of this ship. Let's go and check it out before, of course, moving forward with the subject of the day, which I'm sure a lot of you are interested in, and so that's why we are we're dedicating so much time to it. I think it's important, no, Christine?
Yeah.
So this was the moment in which they hijacked this ship, the Iranians, that is supposedly linked to Israel.
Hey, things up, don't come out. Hey, things up. Chopper, yan. Better go to bridge.
So for those who have maybe not followed today's news, this is also part of today's news. The Associated Press said basically that the British military United Kingdom maritime trade operation reported the hijacking of a Portuguese flag vessel MSC Ares, that is a container ship linked to London-based Zodiac Maritime, and Israeli billionaire Ariel Ofer controls the international ship management company. So, of course, Iran said, okay, we're gonna take over the ship. Now, you have to understand that this is a very important part of the world economy, this Red Sea.
Yeah, you're saying this. You say this every week.
Yeah, and people, and now in the last few hours, France has decided to not send any ships or in the area, and to discourage any civil vessels from going there. there is the Italians who somehow are there to defend I don't know what. Now the Italians in all this
what are they gonna do, those Italians?
those pasta eaters
Pasta and spaghetti for everybody. And
wait a second,
sorry.
because they have 1,000 soldiers packed between Israel and Lebanon in one of the most dangerous areas of the world, and they will be the first ones to blow up if this conflict extends to the north. We know that Hamas is in great difficulty. Of course, Israel has attacked Hamas now for months, so they don't really have much capacity. So Iran, if they want to engage this warfare, they're also using a proxy force. So they will use Hezbollah. Hezbollah is Shia. Hamas is Sunni, and actually, in theory, they shouldn't be depending on Iran in any way, shape, or form. But they have been financed by Iran. The problem here, though, there is some hypocrisy, guy, because when I hear Sean Hannity saying, "Oh, Iran, the number one sponsor of terrorism," yes, possibly, but then Qatar, Hamas is also sponsored by Qatar. They gave $7 billion to Hamas. So, I mean, Sean Hannity forgets to mention Qatar, like most of the Western journalists, because Qatar is the place where you go and have fun, maybe, and is one of those rich Emirate countries that you don't want to criticize. Qatar is the place, in fact, where Al Jazeera has the headquarters. Qatar is a Wahhabi country. Wahhabis are the minds and the money behind the Salafi movement. Okay, and Saudi Arabia, of course, is the richest in the area. No, the Wahhabi heads, but then you have the Qatar, because they're a little bit smaller. They have less oil rigs, and they have maybe they want to influence more. And so, in the last few years, they have invested a lot in information warfare. And Qatar, in fact, has bought a good chunk of Newsmax, giving them over $50 million. Now, Newsmax.
What's up with Newsmax?
We would like to know what's up with Newsmax. So this is something, and nobody's questioning. Oh, Qatar has given, I think, around between 50 and 60 million to Newsmax.
Why is that?
Why is that?
They want them to say some news their way, so they're giving them some money.
And why is Sean Hannity just not saying anything like most Fox people? Just you know,
I don't like that guy.
No, but in general, the Fox people just went to the Middle East and bowed down to the Wahhabis and to the Saudi prince who controls there. Guys, these people are just as bad as everybody else. In fact, in the last few hours, there has been a lot of messages that have been exchanged between international diplomacy, especially from Qatar, the Emirates. All those countries are worried that America and Israel in some way will get them involved with this conflict. They don't want the America to use the basis that they have there. So what is the point of having bases over there, or to even engage in protecting these camel joggies if then after they don't give you the possibility of using them to attack Iran? Now, there has always been traditionally a conflict ongoing between the Wahhabis and Iran, because let's not forget that the Wahhabis, they were basically it's a British asset. Problem is that Chinese have recently intervened and have really changed things. They have changed things, and they have changed things in what way? They have changed things by bringing closer Iran and Saudi Arabia. There was actually a show that we did not so long ago about China, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. I think we still can see this is what happened basically. So you have an idea of how the shifting politics of the Middle East. This is an article by the Atlantic Council a year ago. It's an article from the 6th of March. Beijing brokered the Iran-Saudi deal. So you see, the thing is that because we have an idiot at the White House who doesn't really know where he is most of the time, and because he has the backing behind the scenes, the guy who really in control is Barack Hussein Obama, who is very much a puppet of these people. The whole thing sucks.
Yep.
Now, we were talking about a possibility of a civil war, but more than a possibility of a civil war here in the US, this increasing race war. The other day...
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so if you said earlier that they predicted that Trump would win, right? Well, I mean, they're kind of saying that, and
Well,
they've been saying it on the TV. Everybody can hear it. So, like, what would there be a civil war about if he wins?
Because the civil war is about Trump winning, and at that point, of course...
well, they're not going to do anything. They're a bunch of wimps.
You think that?
But they don't have that. They don't even have any guns. I mean,
No. You get it wrong. Antifa has guns. You can see them parading their guns, and they have financing.
I'm talking about people. Is it civil war people against people?
First of all, when you talk about a civil war, you talk about somebody financing. A revolution is always finance. An insurrection is always finance. A civil war is, of course, financed. By who? We have George Soros, and we have the son now, Alexander, who is in charge. These people, who are the people also close to Obama, who himself sponsored that other movie, Leave the World Behind, that gave us a first hint of certain things, like, for example, the cyber attack on a ship, that suddenly at the opening of the movie we see this ship out of control, and now suddenly we have the same thing happening in Baltimore, but nobody says anything because nobody wants to say the real reason why that ship hit the bridge was because it was hacked. They couldn't control it anymore. They blame it on the fuel. The fuel was polluted by some elements, and so the ship went out of control. If the ship is out of control because of of what they're using as fuel for the ship, it will simply stop. It will not go out of control. Right. It turns off, and then at that point you put the anchors, and that's it. So that is another. But going back to this film, Civil War. Civil War is about portraying the patriots, first of all, as the enemy. The people in the Civil War...
That's upside down and backwards.
Absolutely. But not only. They're trying to do predictive programming. And actually, there was the admission of predictive... predictive programming is about... showing what they would be doing, and the predictive programming in this case, it's kind of really presented as the actual Civil War was also preceded by fiction that imagine what if America had a civil war. So they are this blockbuster of a movie which portrays the people like us, the conservatives, the Trumpians, as primitives, as barbarians, is now, they say, the year is 1849. Martin Van Buren has just been sworn in for his 4th term as president, and blah, blah, blah. An intriguing alternative history, not quite. The novel in which the story appears, flash forward in time, not back. Well, actually, it did both. Published in 1836, but with a date on the title of 1856, and then it was basically talking about something that manifested, and it was, of course, the Civil War. So now we have this movie, Alex Garland's Marshall Civil War stands out for his eagerness to exploit popular fears of mass political violence. But I repeat,
so
it's, please.
I still don't understand.
What you don't understand?
Like, what are the Americans gonna do? Like, you're saying, like, George Antifa and stuff. That's not the Americans. I'm like so confused. I need to read your book.
No, regarding civil war, I mean, it's a subject that I will not entertain.
How can we fight against each other? I mean, it's not even because one of us is armed and the other ones aren't. So, I mean, that's a fight that's uneven. So you're saying that Soros is going to arm them? Is that what you're trying to say?
He's already arming them.
But they're fundamentally against guns. So
Yeah.
they're just upside down and backwards always, and they always say the lies.
The
And
thing
they'll just
is,
go up
they
and
might. The thing is that they might foment something against Trump, maybe even an internal coup against Trump. We don't know that. I mean, at the moment, we are seeing, of course, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA trying to work to sabotage Trump in any way, shape, or form. Okay, but after that's, they know that once Trump comes in, he's going to put them under investigation. Do you think these people are going to go away quietly, or they might instigate a coup of some kind, a coup d'etat? Now, we know that these things usually happen in third world countries, but because America in the last few years has become a third world country, because all those people who have been arrested for going allegedly assaulting the Capitol Hill, including my big fan, the shaman, no?
yeah.
So, of course, at the moment, the whole world is focusing on Israel, and we have a lot of suicide drones that are pestering Israel. That, by the way, has a great Iron Dome system in action of defense. Israel is very technological. So, but having said that, of course, there is a possible conflict. But then, when we talk about the civil war here in the United States, the possibility of civil war, it seems like, first of all, it's a propaganda, it's a big psyop of this film.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because we know that in reality, today, very few people are capable of engaging that kind of action.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Now, the Democrats take their votes from the big cities. The big cities are already a mess. You don't need a civil war to make them a mess, because they're already a mess. We see it every day. I mean, Beverly Hills nowadays, it's falling apart. Shops are closing down every day. The fancy parts of these Democrat cities are now gone because they're becoming filled with homeless people that, of course, don't bring any attraction to the city. They themselves then tend to go where? They go to the red states. That's the problem. You know, that's the problem. We have a massive amount of people who are abandoning.
Everybody's leaving California. We're still here.
We are still here, like kind of survivors, you know, survivors. And then there is this growing race war card that they're playing. Okay, so let's show what went on this week when Donald J. Trump went to simply visit a chicken fillet.
Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
It's a chick.
No, it's a chicken fillet.
It's not a chicken. It's a chick.
Okay. I always wanted to try this place. I still haven't tried it.
It's really good, actually.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to spend like $50 on a Chick-fil-A.
Nowadays, unfortunately, fast foods are really luxury here in California after they put up the minimum wage to $20.
We looked at how much it would cost to eat at Five Guys, and for what we used to get, it was like $70 for
Forget
that.
it. I mean, I'm going to go to a proper restaurant.
It used to be $30, and we thought that was crazy because it's kind of fast food, but it's not. But now it's $70, so forget it.
This is the politics of the Democrats. Okay, so let's go back to Donald J. Trump. This week, he did something that really created a big wave, especially in the Black community. Let's check out this small clip from Fox News. He just simply went into this place, offered the 30 milkshakes.
He's really nice.
Okay, let's see what he did.
An unforgettable moment on the campaign trail for one voter who got a big hug from Trump at an Atlanta Chick-fil-A while he met with supporters. Watch.
I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you. We love you. Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please
Look at the joy. Here to tell us about it is that young woman herself, Michaela Montgomery. She's also the founder of a grassroots political group to conserve the culture. Michaela, I've been waiting for this interview all morning. So
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So thanks so much for joining us. So you told the president when you were hugging him, I don't care what the media says, we support you. Tell me what you meant by that.
I am so glad that is the first question you asked me. So, of course, in the excitement of everything, I wasn't able to really relay my message, but the general consensus or social media would have you thinking that if President Trump were to show up to the HBCU campuses or walk around the AUC community, that like some angry mob would form or a riot would ensue and that he would not be welcomed. And clearly the sentiment in that room the other day was the complete opposite. He was very welcome. People were excited to see him. People showed up in support of him, and people, of course, were from all 4 institutions within the AUC, the local HBCU community in Atlanta, and they all showed up in support of him.
So this sent basically the Democrats in a state of panic. In a state of panic, they had to organize something to recover the black vote. And what did they do? They called their best friend, Alan Sharpton. Al Sharpton, guys, I think that they could have avoided this because I mean it's like the Democrats are fomenting literally a race war. Only a couple of days ago, O.J. Simpson died. And the day he died, the CNN contributor who used to work for Obama said that basically black people identified with OJ because he killed white people. Insane.
Charged because of what had happened just before with Rodney King, but also just how Black Americans feel about policing. It's not like O.J. Simpson was the leader of the civil rights movement of his era. You know, he wasn't a social justice leader, but he represented something for the Black community in that moment, in that trial, particularly because there were 2 white people who had been killed, and the history around how Black people have been persecuted during slavery. There were just so many layers. And I guess I would just close with this, is that there was racial tension then, there is racial tension now. It might not be the backdrop of the Trump campaign.
Now, this is insane. Christy, please comment on this. I mean, this is insane. I mean,
I don't want to make it worse.
Black people identify with OJ. OJ was a criminal. And I couldn't believe myself when I put on the news, of course, all day long, you know, if it doesn't fit, you must quit. No, apart from that, at one point I put on the news and there was Karine Jean-Pierre talking about OJ, like, we respect the silence requested by the family, almost like he was a great man of all time.
He killed 2 people.
He killed 2 people.
I don't know why he was acquitted, because the glove didn't fit, so they must have quit. I thought that was bullshit.
So, I mean, it's like...
That was when I remember that day, because I was running the Marine Corps Marathon. I was training for it. And I had just run back because I wanted to catch the sentence.
No, I mean, of course, it was all over the place. And before that, we had the famous or infamous car running along the highway and all the police cars chasing. I mean, it was, of course, it's part of Americana. You can't deny that. But to actually almost make him a hero And that the woman on CNN, she's completely outrageous. I mean, what she said, but this means fomenting the race war. I mean, and people like another, I mean, I will call her in certain ways that is better. I don't call her.
Don't say it. Whatever
say it.
you're going
Okay.
to say, don't say it. Don't say it.
That fart
Don't say it.
no.
Don't
Whoopi
say it, whatever you're
Goldberg
gonna
said
say.
that Republicans want to bring back slavery.
Take a look at the things that they're rolling back. Remember I said ages ago, you know, they, in their minds, they want to bring slavery back. They're okay.
I mean, these are insane. These are insane. That other idiot the other day said that basically the eclipse happened because of climate change. The one on the left there. I mean, these people are really the epitome of dementia. But let's see.
With it, because you see, things change. You know, one of the good things about the Supreme Court is you can fight to make sure you make stuff better. You don't generally fight to make stuff worse. And to me, or to roll back. And to me, if you're okay rolling that back, when things were not even a state, when we had no say, yeah. So how's that going to roll? How's that going to roll? What's the next thing? Because, you know, on this, with all of this comes birth control. Right. With all of this comes...
And then they go into birth control, and then, of course, Kamala had to go to Arizona and blame it all on Trump. Trump, who said, by the way, it's the states that have to take care of this issue, but they had to blame everything on Trump. I mean, it's just demented. I mean, it's incredible.
Everything that you need as a woman to have had put in place to make sure that we were doing better than we were before.
What did you say? I mean, Whoopi Goldberg guy.
He really doesn't like her. Is that why you didn't want to watch that thing I was watching yesterday because she was narrating?
Yes.
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean,
it was good though. I watched it.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she is really a piece of garbage. Literally, a human piece of garbage. Now, sometimes we would like to break up a little bit all this news with something a little bit funny. Well, it's funny, nice. But it's not funny. An illegal migrant from Venezuela, we know that a lot of them are passing illegally these days through the border, tried to rob a bank in Ohio, but because he doesn't know English, it took him some time, and in the end he was arrested because he was trying to use the app to translate, to pass on the message to the guy that he was actually robbing him. I mean, this is insane, guys. So let's watch this.
Is that the phone they gave him?
Bank security video that shows a suspect holding up his phone to the tellers. Police say the suspect did not speak English and was using a translator app to tell tellers, get the money and put the money in the bag.
Been in law enforcement for over 20 years. It's the first time I've encountered something like this, and it's the first time our officers have dealt with it too.
Sandusky Police Chief Jared Oliver calls it highly unusual for someone to use a translator app to try and rob a bank.
We're going to detain him for now.
Officers quickly responded to the area and found the suspect. The suspect said he didn't understand English and didn't speak English.
Now he invents the excuse. He doesn't understand English, but he had the perfect excuse. He said because he didn't know English, he was misunderstood. He actually didn't have a bank account and didn't want to rob the bank. He simply wanted them to give the money cash to him.
Oh, yeah, sure.
A Sandusky officer who speaks Spanish arrived on scene and advised the suspect of his rights. The suspect told the officers he was not trying to rob the bank.
Why would you go to a bank and request to put money in a bag if you don't have a bank account? What is that? He's saying he's sorry. He didn't mean it that way.
I'm sure they liberated him, gave him an honorary Biden citizenship.
They probably did let him out, though.
Probably made him a citizenship immediately. He took probably the oath for the naturalization after 2 minutes because that's
now
it.
You can vote,
now you can vote. But the problem is this, like Mike Johnson and Trump yesterday were discussing during the visit that the Speaker of the House had at Mar-a-Lago, they are letting in all these migrants because most of them will end up voting illegally for Joe Biden. This is the reality here. So it's like they are incentivizing a race war, which, by the way, shouldn't happen because of people like this wonderful lady.
Kind of crazy to see people in an uproar when all four institutions were legitimately represented, and all four institutions were represented by said students who wanted to support President Trump.
You know, Michaela,
and I really appreciate that we were able to not only let him know that regardless of what social media says, you know, I know they're trying to make us think we're supposed to hate you, but we don't. And additionally, it was a learning experience for my students because they were able to see and experience firsthand how the media can warp the perception of an opinion or a person. Because like I said, to think that these students who attend these illustrious institutions aren't smart enough to make their own decisions, so much so that they would only show support for Trump because he bought chicken sandwiches and milkshakes.
It's offensive.
That in itself is the most disturbing part of it all, especially when
That is disturbing also because I saw that idiot of Jimmy Kimmel who had something to say about this.
Yeah, I did.
He actually showed this event like this woman was stupid to believe that Trump helped the black people and that Joe Biden has spent, I don't know, 6 million, I don't know how many million or billions or whatever to help the black folk. And so Jimmy Kimmel, who is still trying to grasp reality because soon he's going to realize that the winner is inevitably Donald J. Trump, should change his tune, but he will never do. He's just a political mouthpiece. He's not a comedian. Every now and then,
but he makes us laugh.
Every now and then,
he has some stupid jokes.
Sometimes he has stupid jokes. Sometimes I can stand them. It depends, you know. So, but it has to be analyzed. I mean, I watch him just as Trump watches him because just as Trump watches Lester Holt, you have to watch the enemy and see what he's saying.
We watch Lester every night.
We have to watch the anchorman of the woke, so we can understand what they are peddling here. Of course, we can't go as far as MSNBC and that idiot woman with the short hair. I don't even remember. I don't want to even say her name. She's like a demon incarnated. But in any case, if you want to know more about the American Renaissance 2.0 and the missing link from the invisible world, and to understand really the Democrats and the Democrats, how they really fit in this whole thing, well, Volume 4 is a great book for understanding that. Now, another interesting news that this week happened is this 3 men that literally like in a movie. They were stuck, these 3 fishermen, on a deserted island in the Pacific, and they simply wrote help on the beach, and eventually they got rescued. Here we go.
That's good.
Coast Guard rescue that looked like a scene right out of a movie. 3 fishermen were stranded on a small island off the coast of Micronesia for more than a week. Their family reported them missing. They scrambled to the small island after their outboard motor got damaged, and when their radio ran out of battery power, they used palm branches to spell out help on the white sand beach. Eventually, the U.S. Navy spotted that sign and called the Coast Guard. Turns out one of the rescuers from the Coast Guard was Micronesian and spoke the local language and is related to the stranded fishermen. The Coast Guard says that makeshift sign was crucial in finding those stranded fishermen.
Not bad. That's interesting. Now, at the moment, we notice that most of our viewers are following us from Ordo Universalis, from X. Well, if you're following us from X, please share this video, make it viral on X. We are also present on our 2 remaining channels, YouTube, with the Leo Zagami Show, Leslie, and the Zagaman Grazia Nostra. We are no longer, unfortunately, present on Facebook, at least until the 27th of May, the day after your birthday. So we're gonna have to wait for that. We're gonna be present with this video in the coming hours on band.video, and of course we will try to be also present tomorrow and the day after on Rumble and BitChute. These are other platforms that we use, and we encourage people to subscribe to our Rumble channel, because as the censorship is increasing, and we would really like to survive this election year without being censored and removed like it happened the other time, I think people need to subscribe to our Rumble channel. So go on the description of this video.
Could take callers, because that was so fun.
That was so fun, but it's so risky with everything that happens and the algorithms that unfortunately imperverse.
So nice to talk to
but we will sooner or later we will. In the meantime, let me show you something that happens.
Can it be nice? Can it be nice?
Well, if you are into fusilli made out of cricket's flower.
No, I'm not.
This is an Italian publicity posted on della tua dieta. Pasta made out of cricket flowers. Now,
that's disgusting.
Now, I talked about this in volume 9 of my Confessions, why they are doing that. But to actually push...
is this on TV? No, it's not.
No, but they are
oh my God, this is the grossest
small
thing
jack
ever.
Cricket flower. Watch.
That's disgusting. That's just wrong. You become a demon.
Now, if you want to know more about the Codex Alimentarius, about why they're pushing such food on us, you have to get volume 9 of my Confessions now.
That's nasty shit right there.
Because it's also to do with insect witchcraft. But they make it look like it's so good.
It looks like fusilli.
Oh, yeah, they made a nice sauce with it.
Oh, I feel sick.
And the guy is like this millennial idiot. It's like,
he looks like he eats
no,
crickets.
we are saving the world by eating
he
crickets.
Looks like he eats crickets.
He looks like he eats crickets.
What else does he eat?
I don't know. It's just insane. How can people eat this garbage? Now,
anyway.
Terrible. It kind of leaves you
anyway.
with the taste of something wrong in your mouth. Rambi's asleep.
He's really asleep.
Now, one more thing, guys, because we have a lot of friends that follow us from Japan. I published my first books in Japan.
I love Japan.
She lived in Japan for a few years. She brought me to Japan, and I signed a book deal for 6 books in Japan.
Was in Japan.
My very, very first book was published in Japanese. In fact, I couldn't understand what the heck was written on it, but I hope it was.
I had to do the
translation stuff. Now, thousands of people have attended the public demonstration against the WHO and the New World Order across multiple locations in Japan. I think that this is a very important initiative, and so I wanted to show it to you. Japan! Big. This is a big deal.
I am so proud of them. They're wonderful. It's because they read your book. That's why.
Now, massive protest breaks out in Japan in opposition to WHO proposed pandemic treaty.
I'm so happy.
It's really good that the Japanese are reacting and are doing something about this. Why is it so important, Christy? Because the Japanese people have also suffered a lot during the pandemic. They were very disciplined about it. They had the Olympics, at one point going on, but now they are saying and this is very important. What this actually, I'm going to get Christy to read what this gentleman is saying. I have it here translated for you, Christy, so you can tell Here we have one of the strongest statements.
We strongly protest against the WHO,
WHO. This is April 13th today. It was actually a few hours ago. It happened in Japan. And this protest, of course, voiced strong opposition to mandatory vaccination and the potential infringement of Japan's sovereignty. So please, Christy, read the whole thing.
We strongly protest against the WHO for forcing people to be vaccinated, ignoring Japan's sovereignty, where vaccines are voluntary, declared one of the banners leading the march.
So this is basically what is happening in Japan, and we are very honored that we have so many Japanese friends and supporters. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I was speaking with Franco in Osaka just a couple of hours ago, and I said compliments. This is a very good thing. I mean, why is nobody else complaining, guys? Why is nobody else complaining? In Italy, the minister who actually was in charge of, it was a little bit like the Dr. Fauci of Italy, the Ministry of more than sanity, of insanity of the medical sector. He was now captured in a court case, which of course eventually he managed to get out of. But during the court case, it came out that he knew exactly about the adverse reactions of the vaccine, but he went on with it, and that's it. I mean, this is what happens, unfortunately. There is still a lot of censorship. Now, we have talked to you today. We hope they will not censor us tomorrow because of what we're saying, but everything is possible because these people, they don't respect the freedom of speech, of expression, that should, we're not here spreading any false information. We are simply spreading the facts. That's how it is. And the facts are very clear regarding the injustices that we went through during the pandemic. So we hope that the censorship can stop. Otherwise, follow us on Ordo Illuminatorum Universalis on Twitter, on Band.video, and of course, eventually we will come back. It came out, by the way, this week with the publication of Rand Paul's book, that Dr. Fauci made regular visits to the CIA headquarters in Langley in the months prior to the pandemic. What was he doing? How many visits did he do? And why were not these visits were not officially recorded in the guest books? And he continues to protect the Wuhan lab. I mean, guys, it's just crazy. Rambo is.
He's asleep.
He doesn't want to come out.
He's sleeping.
Okay, guys. At this point, I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you will support the show by purchasing our books, also Christie's book, and books actually, because we have volume 1 and 2. My latest book, of course, and all the others. Regarding the subject that we touched today, regarding the Democratic Party, the KKK, and the race war, this is the book, volume 4. Regarding, of course, the crickets and the flower and Codex Alimentaris, volume 9.
Regarding my life story. And if you want to take a deep dive into somebody else's problems, you can read my book, and it's very entertaining and very interesting.
Absolutely.
It is interesting.
Absolutely.
It seems like I would write a boring book, but it's actually very interesting.
Here we are at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Tune in next week for the Leo Zagami show.
Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan. Now, why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun, but the things I like to do, you stop me one by one. Now even if you make me stronger, that ain't gonna make me live no longer. So even if I go to the devil with the devil, says I.
Look out for the devil, look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Have a great week. We have started. We will keep on this show with a certain sense of humor, even if it's dark.